Born unlike ordinary people, Sakurajika had always been ostracized and gossiped about by classmates from a young age, and unloved by his family. This was the reality he faced in his dreams. In the bustling yet peaceful tofu shopping city, Sakurajika strolled down the streets. Suddenly, a gang started bullying a frail girl. Witnessing this, Sakurajika stepped in to add to the commotion, but the gang leader underestimated him. When words failed, violence ensued, and Sakurajika ended up beating the leader until he cried for his parents. The girl he saved chased after him to thank him. Looking around as if searching for something, Sakurajika shyly asked if she was talking to him, and then blushed. She cooked a delicious omelet, revealing that she knew Sakurajika was new to this troubled small town. Her name was Takabena Kotoa, an outsider who had also established herself here. Takabena's friendliness made Sakurajika suspicious. She admired his two-tone hair and eyes, which looked like marbles to her. Takabena was used to more eccentric people, so she found him quite normal. Sakurajika came to Fujian due to his poor academic performance, but excelled in fighting, a skill he hoped to use to rise to the top of the local scene, a goal that excited Kotoha. Sakurajika was enthusiastic, but Koto paid no mind as Yama finished his meal and went to pay. Before he left, Sakurajika handed him an item he had forgotten, holding candies in his hand as he walked down the street. Remembering that Yama had asked Kotoha to give them to him as a thank you for retrieving a gift for his grandchild. Kotoha confirmed Sakurajika's schooling at Fujian, but warned he would never be at the top. Strong as he was, but always alone. After a moment of peace, the thugs resumed their rampage. As Sakurajika confronted them, he calmly walked by, but the leader mocked his appearance. Sakurajika simply smiled, satisfied that this was a normal reaction. Kotoha's words echoed in his ears, ignoring the leader's taunts. When his gang learned he had been beaten, they rushed to settle the score. Alone, Sakurajika faced the gang without flinching, chanting on his own on the stage. As Kotoha washed dishes, she heard the commotion, ran out, and was taken hostage by the leader. Sakurajika swiftly kicked him in the face. As he spoke with Kotoha, another attacker struck from behind. Sakurajika spun around and kicked him into the wall. As the gang surged to attack him, unable to fight the whole gang and protect Kotoha, he chose to stand alone. As a stick was about to hit his head, a man in a Fujian uniform shielded him, then grabbed the stick and struck the gang leader's face. 3 Fujian members arrived. The gang recognized the newcomer as Higashi from Fujian. Though initially frightened, they regrouped and attacked the 4 defenders, who quickly fought off the thugs. Sakurajika watched in awe as one attacker snaked up on him, but Higashi quickly intervened. The town cheered on Higashi's group for driving away the thugs. Years ago, the town was terrorized by such gangs. But 2 years ago, Fujian High School students took control and became the town's protectors. To everyone, including Kotoha, the town needed Sakurajika, who felt uneasy about it, not wanting to be alone, but alienated by society. He had learned to protect himself, feeling safer alone. Kotoha's words confused him, and after a brief run, he flew up and kicked a thug in the face, then landed gently. In this town, he wouldn't be alone anymore. Sakura carried Shido, who complained of back pain, to Kotoha's restaurant. Despite his grumpiness, he helped because she said she needed it. Sitting at a familiar table, Sakura had become part of the town, often irritable, but always helping others. Today marked the new school year at Fujian High School. A blonde-haired boy wearing glasses entered outside. After hearing Shido greet him, Niji immediately stood up to return the greeting. He is also a freshman at Fujian High School. After Sakura looked at him, Niji and Sakura locked eyes. Kotoha explained that they were classmates, which took Niji by surprise, and he looked at Sakura curiously. He guessed Sakura was from outside the school and wondered why someone unknown like Sakura was there. Fujian had many strong people, but he only wanted to be the top. Niji seriously told Sakura that if he really aimed for that, he would go bald early. At 10 o'clock, Niji took the opportunity to show off his uniform. He also wanted to be a righteous ally. But as he reached the door, he clumsily bumped into it. Sakura wondered how such a clumsy, useless person got into Fujian, but she hoped, as they turned towards Sakura, he would turn towards them too. However, Sakura only cared that Niji was strong, at which point Kotoha was genuinely stunned. Sakura then left. While walking down the street, Niji thought about what Kotoha said and bumped into a tray of freshly baked pastries from a roadside shop. The owner warmly invited him to try a Yakita pastry. Embarrassed, Niji declined as he wasn't hungry and walked away. The owner hurriedly ran to give him a bag of pastries to take along. Then a girl suddenly grabbed him, startling him and causing him to drop all his food, and she screamed for help. Meanwhile, Niji was beaten up by a group who mocked him, saying he didn't deserve to be a hero before leaving. Niji didn't take it, lying down and confronted the leader, only to be punched away. The group laughed mockingly at him. As the leader was about to deliver a final blow, Sakura arrived just in time to hit him with a hidden shoe. Niji thought Sakura had come to save him, but Sakura couldn't stand seeing the weak being bullied. The bullies charged at him, but when Niji opened his eyes, they were sprawled on the ground. The leader was grabbed by Sakura and received a beating. Sakura walked past Niji, who thanked her. Sakura hadn't come to save him, but wanted him to realize his own strength. The reason Niji joined Fujin was that in middle school, he was a victim of school bullying, and someone from Fujin had saved him. Since then, he changed his view of Fujin and wanted to join to become stronger. While Niji was crying over his weakness, the girl he saved came to thank him. She also thanked Sakura, who blushed with embarrassment. Sakura was about to leave when Niji called her back. He took out a notebook to ask her height, weight, preferences, skills, and blood type. After that, he awkwardly poked and prodded Sakura, which annoyed her. Niji kept sticking close to Sakura. After the fight, Sakura took out a pastry and ate it as they walked down Cherry Blossom Road, quickly reaching Fujin School. They then went to the class assignment board. Excited to be in the same class with amazing people, Niji paled when he saw a name. On the way, he asked Sakura to promise to be friendly with their classmates. Hearing Niji speak, Sakura got ready to respond. He opened the door to the classroom. Niji was scared, but Sakura was thrilled. A guy wearing an eye patch introduced himself as Leonardo DiCaprio. Niji, a Japanese person, seriously approached to talk about Sakura. Niji worried he would be bullied as an outsider. Sakura readied herself for a fight, but Suo patted him on the shoulder. He had heard about Sakura and thought it was awesome. All the students crowded around Sakura. The reason she came from outside was to become the top person at the school, making all her classmates gape in astonishment. A desk flew in, interrupting their conversation, brought by a long-haired person, the most dangerous person at the school, Sujishita Kyotogo. Niji was afraid, and so was the class, but Sakura was intrigued by him. Sujishita quickly moved to fight with Sakura. He had joined Bofujin before entering high school here, a rather strong person. If Sakura wanted to be the top, she had to surpass him first. The rest of the students watched nervously, and someone called for Suo to stop them. But Suo casually watched the exciting fight, knowing he wasn't strong enough to intervene. Despite the chatter around, Sujishita lunged at Sakura, thinking he would punch her face, but she smoothly dodged 145 degrees from his punch. Then she gently kneed Sujishita in the head and asked him for some blood. Everyone was stunned by the display. A fanatic like Sujishita intrigued Sakura, making her wonder how she could possibly lose. Both now stood seriously facing each other. While Sakura calmly enjoyed the situation, Sujishita was enraged, his face bloodied, instilling fear in others. They quickly clashed, neither willing to back down, but ultimately stopped by the school's loudspeaker. Sakura, after regaining her composure, encouraged Sujishita to continue. However, everyone else was focused on the loudspeaker and ignored their surroundings. The person speaking through the loudspeaker was Yumira Hajime, the leader of Fujin. No wonder everyone was so attentive. Yumira spoke cryptically, leaving everyone puzzled, except for Sujishita's fanatical followers who nodded vigorously. Yumira was urging everyone to enjoy their youth and inviting them to go to the beach and eat shaved ice during the summer. Niji couldn't help but laugh at the mention of shaved ice, while he was shaken by Sujishita holding his head. Niji said he was happy just to be let go. Yumira then reminded everyone, even if there were disagreements, to not fight upon first meeting. Sujishita, like a child caught fighting by his mother, quickly wiped the blood from his face, but Yumira had seen everything. Yumira emphasized important rule everyone must remember, to protect the city, which is the only law here. All students loudly agreed. Both Sakura and Sujishita looked shocked, like children who are caught fighting and are forced by adults to apologize and make peace. Sakura, blushing, screamed in refusal. Suo tapped into Sakura's ambition to be the leader to calm him down. Suo used the same tactic on Sujishita, asking what if Yumira saw him fighting. Not wanting to upset his idol, Sujishita was the first to extend his hand in peace to Sakura. After an internal struggle, Sakura went over and shook hands with Sujishita, marking the first time she shook hands with someone without fighting. However, both were not genuinely reconciled. Afterward, Sakura was dragged away by classmates who praised her endlessly for being the first to give Sujishita a beating. Suddenly, someone rushed in, urging everyone to come outside. They were all needed as painters. The story shifts back 30 minutes when Higashi yelled at everyone for being late to the field. He watched the clock tick by, and Sakura, after calming down, recognized Higashi. Sakura told Niji about the previous day when he saved Kotoa and was grabbed by Higashi, who covered his mouth and pushed him away. Sakura confronted him about mentioning the incident with Kotoa there the previous day. Higashi, spitting in anger, forced Sakura to dodge. After leaving a message for Sakura, Higashi left. The cawing of crows overhead added a sinister feel to the school atmosphere. Sakura returned to her friends, curious about what was said that required Higashi to take stomach medicine, something Niji noted carefully since Higashi was one of the 4 kings of Bofujin. Later, Higashi led everyone on a patrol around the town. Yumimi had tasked Higashi to keep an eye on Sakura and Sujishita, so they patrolled together. While Sakura was discontented with just patrolling, Sujishita complied obediently. Sakura was bored with wandering around. She wanted to confront troublemakers directly, but as town protectors, they could not start conflicts. Wearing their patrol uniforms made smaller groups avoid them. They also helped local residents with small tasks, like helping an elderly lady up the stairs. And currently, they were painting over graffiti-covered walls, after which the owner treated them to food. They continued patrolling and eating fish cakes. Higashi explained that they used to find joy in fighting, but now they enjoyed helping people. These activities were quite exciting, and the group moved towards an overpass with a high-speed train track above. Niji advised Sakura not to cause trouble, as the bridge marked the boundary between Bofujin and another gang, akin to a border between 2 countries where citizens are not supposed to cross without permission. Suddenly, 2 feet from above landed on Shishidozen's face. The only ones capable of such a feat were the kindergarten duo, Sakura and Sujishita. Azuma Yukinaji and Kano Mami Nozu watched with delight as their teammate, bloodied and unconscious from a nosebleed, lay on the ground. Behind them, the vice president of Shishidozen approached, silencing the 2 of them who dared not make a sound. Higashi felt uneasy, noting that of all people, this one had shown up. Togum pushed up his glasses, looking towards Fujin, and asked about the motionless teammate. Higashi approached and explained that the person from the other side had chased a student from their side. Shiju Katashi shouted that Fujin had invaded their territory, only to be silenced by Togame, who smashed a bottle on his head and then beat him severely despite his injuries. Sakura and Togame approached each other. One spoke quickly, the other so slowly it was almost sleep-inducing. Afterwards, Togame promised to find a suitable place to give Sakura a proper fight. He led his group away, not forgetting to say a mocking farewell to Sakura, which infuriated her. Niji was genuinely worried about Sakura provoking Togame, but Togame was not one to be easily messed with, so the outcome would likely be the same regardless of the provocation. Regardless, the incident had occurred, and Higashi took responsibility upon himself. He led Sasaki, a junior high student, and the rest back to school. Higashi reported the situation to Yumamura, and the group went to the rooftop to find him. It turned out he was gardening, preparing fruits and vegetables for the summer. Despite looking like a primary school student, he was the leader of Fujin. Yumamura appeared to be aware of everything yet acted as if he knew nothing. His main concern was his gardening. While everyone was tense, Suo patted Sasaki on the shoulder to ease his stress. Sakura complained about the tediousness of sorting vegetables, angering Shizuka Tashi because she dared to criticize his idol. Yumamura intervened, explaining that tomatoes are tomatoes and chilies are chilies, they aren't the same. He always knew how to ease the atmosphere. Sasaki then stood up and explained that he had seen a thief in the shopping district and had chased him into Shishidozen territory without realizing it. He thought he'd meet his grandparents sooner than expected due to the ensuing beating, but thanks to Sakura and Sujishita, he was saved. His admiration for Bofujin had made him want to prove his strength, but he ended up causing trouble on rival territory. Yumamura not only refrained from punishing Sasaki, but also thanked him for bravely protecting the city's people. Yumamura was thrilled about how Sakura and Sujishita had kicked Shishidozen away impressively. Laughing heartily, Yumamura commented that their rivals must be furious because they don't understand reasoning. Higashi took responsibility for not keeping a closer watch on the 2. Inside, Higashi was suffering from stomach pain, but Niji finally spoke up, Knowing and acknowledging that everyone knew Sakura was the one who escalated things to a peak and was beyond saving, Sakura jumped up to defend herself, arguing that the other side was spouting nonsense about strength being everything and mocking the weak, which had challenged her pride and made it impossible for her to hold back. She had merely intended to kick a little. Everyone stared as Sakura boldly justified herself, holding nothing back. Yumamura stood up, patted Sakura on the head in approval, agreeing that Shishituzan was too arrogant. He had heard of Sakura's actions and thanked her for standing up righteously for the people. Their big family. Having a reliable junior like her was a joy for him, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief and smiled, except for Sujisita, who was visibly jealous. Sakura felt warmth for the first time and now understood why everyone listened to Yumamura. It felt safe around him. Kaji called Higashi with a weak voice, uttering a few words about Shishitogen. The leader of Shishitogen had dragged a defenseless Kaji to Fusion School. Tamazawa, wielding a loudspeaker, issued a challenge to Yumamura, boasting of being stronger than the vice president Togame. A powerful aura of combat passed by, and Yumamura, putting on a coat, walked downstairs. Sakura was shocked, and everyone followed Yumamura. He told them to stay back and wait. Sakura wanted to fight, but Yumamura didn't want to repeat himself. His presence was truly overwhelming. Yumamura at this moment seemed like a different person from before, with Fusion students lying motionless on the schoolyard below. Tamazawa only wanted to fight Yumamura. With an unruffled demeanor, Yumamura gently said to stop, suggesting they call it even since Fusion had struck first. But the opponent, agile and quick, launched a kick at Yumamura, who calmly cut Tamazawa's leg with one hand. He laughed dismissively, not caring about the consequences, determined to face Yumamura in a battle no matter what. Tamazawa wanted Yumamura and Fusion on his side because leading alone felt lonely, while Yumamura was always cheerful and playful. Annoyed by this, he wanted to dominate and bring him under his wing. However, before he could confront Yumamura, Togame arrived with Shishituzan's underlings at Fusion, and Sakurazawa along with others came out to meet the challenge. Tamazawa was fuming because he wanted a one-on-one fight with Yum, not a group brawl. Togame informed Tamazawa that a duel would be difficult since Fusion students were around. But Yumamura ordered everyone to keep their distance and agreed to a one-on-one fight with Tamazawa. Meanwhile, the Shishituzan group was itching for a fight, mocking Fusion for their supposed fear and stupidity. Suo praised Shishituzan for their masculine appearance yet feminine demeanor, finding it endearing. Togame suggested Tamazawa postpone the fight as it was getting dark and they wouldn't be able to see the bruises on Fusion's face. But the mood wasn't just down to Tamazawa and Yumamura. This led to several pairings for fights. Yum with Chuji, Togame with Sakurazawa, the long-haired man with Sujishita, and the delicate boy with Suo. All were eager for the match. A mysterious figure from Shishituzan wanted to compete with Higashi, which turned out to be Sakurazawa. The participants and their matches were scheduled. Fusion's first-year group gathered at Kotoa's cafe, with Niji worried about the outcome. He feared if Yumamura lost, it might provoke Sujishita. Niji worried Fusion could be overtaken and disappear. Despite Niji's concerns, Sakura ate ravenously as if starved for 7 years, then demanded to go home. Waiting long without seeing Yumamura's group, usually before a fight, Kotoa's cafe was the gathering place for Fusion. Just as they were about to leave, Yumamura's group arrived. It had been a long time since he had seen Kotoa. He boasted about his vegetables and promised to send them to her soon. Sakura was shocked to discover Kotoa was Yumamura's girlfriend, which led her to angrily clarify that they had grown up together in an orphanage, and he saw her as a sister. Sakura had thought Kotoa was over 20, which angered Sujishita, who threw a chair. In reality, she was just mature for her age. Kotoa was a forbidden subject for Yumamura. Anyone who touched her was in serious trouble. Previously, Shishituzan was just a gang seeking power through fighting. Although they had a history of brawls with Fusion, this fight was exhilarating. Since Tamazawa became leader, bad rumors started. But this wasn't the first time. Both Tamazawa and Togame sought absolute power, caring about their team more than anything. Surprisingly, everything unfolded this way. Higashi summarized while eating. The reasons might stem from Tamazawa. They planned to clarify things the next day. As fighting was also a form of dialogue, sometimes fists helped understand opponents better than words. Kotoa cleaned up the cafe for the next day's battle. As the appointed time neared, Yumamura led the group through a tunnel to fight. It was Sakura's first fight for someone else. Nervously exciting. Tamazawa and Shishituzan were already waiting. Tamazawa led the way, with Yumamura's group leisurely following. Most of Shishidozen's territory included lively night bars. As they were chatting merrily, Sakura, Tsujishida, and Suo stopped. Only then did they realize Nichi had followed, shyly clinging to the group, saying he wanted to observe and learn more. After that, everyone continued to the territory of Shishidozen, which was the abandoned Ozian movie theater, now known as the Ozai base for Shishidozen. Tamazawa led everyone to the door, where the entire Shishidozen gang was waiting for Yumira's group. Yumira knew this duel wouldn't be simple. Niji was terrified, trembling with his head bowed. Yumira reminded Niji that if he was here to learn, he needed to keep his eyes forward. He also mentioned that the match was primarily between him and Tamamea, so winning or losing didn't matter to the others. Sakura disagreed, arguing that since they were here to fight, they must win, not lose. Tamazawa stepped onto the stage, excited to compete against Yumira. However, Togum spoke up, stating it wasn't right for the leader to fight first and suggested they start from the lower ranks. Thus, the long-haired man went first. Tsujishida gave him a deadly glare and stepped up to compete. Sakura called him back, reminding him that their battle wasn't finished, so losing was not an option. Tsujishida only had to win. Tsujishida and Azuma fought fiercely, each capable of breaking ribs with a single punch. Yumira warned not to underestimate them. Azuma, knowing Tsujishida idolized Yumira, taunted Yumira to distract his opponent. When Tsujishida turned to look at Azuma quickly landed a powerful punch on Tsujishida's face, mocking him as foolish for getting distracted and receiving a punch. However, his gloating didn't last long as he was suddenly grabbed by the arm, thrown down with a swift strike, and knocked unconscious. Tamamea was thrilled by Tsujishida's attack, while Tagame remained eerily calm, grabbing the excited Tamaza by the shirt. Tsujishida approached Yumira, who praised his stubbornness and expressed strong faith in his junior. Sakura wasn't surprised by Tsujishida's victory. Having fought him before, Suo knew Sakura didn't acknowledge Tsujishida's strength, but Sakura merely boasted about Tsujishida's resilience. Tagame seemed mesmerized, not moving or speaking until he stood up and walked back to the stage. Yumira's group was surprised by this. Tamamea had two underlings clean up Azuma, but he was too heavy. They struggled to carry him to Yumira's group, then casually dropped him at their feet. Before leaving, one of them kicked Azuma's unconscious face, displaying the ruthlessness of the Shishidozen. Sakura couldn't help but speak out against it. Two fighters looking for trouble approached, but Suo reminded Sakura to use fists, not words. They wanted to fight both of them. Tamamea intervened because Sakura and Suo's opponents weren't them. Next, Sakura wanted to fight, but Suo stepped in since it was his turn by the order. Sakura shouted in protest, but to no avail. Suo called the delicate boy Kanyuma onto the stage. Kanyuma, visibly nervous and biting his nails, walked onto the stage. Suo stood up and apologized, admitting he had underestimated Sakura's ambition to be the strongest because he always put his heart into his words and actions, and so he couldn't afford to lose. Yumira wanted to know more about Suo. According to the wise man Niji's records, Suo was known to be strong but had never won. Little was known about Suo, so his true strength was a mystery. According to Yumira, Suo was a very kind person. Kanyuma was angry that his brother Azuma had been knocked unconscious. So, with a gentle smile, noted that it was only when Kanyuma became the victim that he reacted so vocally, like a child who couldn't bear hardship. Enraged, Kanyuma charged at Suo. Using his agility and hands, Suo quickly dispatched the boy. Then, in a Taikai pose, Suo mockingly invited Kanyuma to a lesson in maturity in just a few seconds. With one hand behind his back and the other gesturing a welcome, Suo successfully attracted the elementary school boy. Suo swiftly dodged and counterattacked, causing Kanyuma to tumble to the ground. Even in defeat, the boy was flashy. Kanyuma, refusing to accept defeat, charged again. Suo grabbed Kanyuma and performed a few dance moves before gently setting him on the ground. Shishidozen thought Kanyuma was joking around and yelled at him to fight seriously. However, they didn't realize that Kanyuma was actually overwhelmed by Suo, who instantly neutralized everything Kanyuma tried to do. Yumira laughed delightedly, knowing that Suo was more than just a kind person. To Sakura, Suo was not kind at all. He only saw him as a nasty person because Sakura could see through Suo's tactics. Suo didn't leave his opponents alive or dead, but turned them into a mockery. If Kanyuma were in his shoes, he'd rather just die. Perhaps Suo was annoyed by Shishidozen's behavior. Higashi and Yumira both noticed that Suo was acting on emotion. Yumira thought it was because Suo had recently been influenced by someone, and looked toward Sakura. So tossed Kanuma around like a ball. Kanuma was like a clown in front of the audience. The majority of Shisatuzan screamed for Kanuma to fight properly. Kanuma glanced around the audience, including Tomozawa and Tagame. He was breathless, remembering the disaster that befell the Shisatuzan members who lost to their opponents. It couldn't go on like this. Kanuma shouted desperately, then charged at Suo with a fist raised. But Su's long legs, over 8 meters, blocked him. Suo spoke the answer Kanuma was thinking at that moment. It was that he was imagining himself becoming the object of ridicule, which is necessary to become an adult. Kanuma, terrified, sat down hard. Suo had guessed everything right. Suo reached out, ready to make Kanuma's imagination a reality. Just then, Togame intervened. Kanuma lost this match. Suo was not only agile, but also good at psychological tactics. Tomozawa woke up as the match ended. Kanuma didn't understand why the match was stopped. Tagame replied that trying was useless and declared that Kanuma was no longer on their team. Suo walked down. Only now did those from Shishidozen realize that the first-year student from Bofugen was not easy to scare. Yumira stood up to praise Su's strength. Suo happily thanked him. Niji asked what martial arts technique Suo used. Suo didn't know. It might be a combination since his master was self-taught. Niji had more information in his profile. Higashi said he was acting on emotion today. Usually, Suo isn't like this, but Sakura's inspiration motivated him to change. Sakura demanded Suo to take their fight seriously, but Suo casually said fighting with Sakura was bothersome. Then, Sakura rushed toward Suo. Niji struggled to hold him back, while Yumira felt they would make a good team. Kanuma slowly pulled Azuma next to Yumira's group. Azuma slowly opened his eyes, twisted in pain, then crawled next to Kanuma. The two friends connected in their defeat. Tagame looked towards the rival school. Next, Sakura stood up, eager to fight, but Sako from Shishidozen stood up and pointed towards Higashi. Higashi stood up and said, "This one is for me," thanking Sakura for taking on Tagame for him. Higashi and Sako went up on stage. The two had a reunion after a long separation. Sako had grown a lot, even though he had joined Shishidozen for some reason. Higashi was determined to win this match. Maji eagerly anticipated this battle. Not keeping everyone waiting, Sako and Higashi quickly engaged. Sako charged at Higashi, who just defended. Sako had become much stronger, but Higashi hadn't attacked yet. Sako thought Higashi still saw him as the child he once was. Then Sako attacked with a kick at Higashi, who now finally fought back, trading punch for kick. Sako powerfully kicked towards Higashi, but faked a pullback to let Higashi dodge. Continuously, Sako pushed Higashi into a corner. Shishidozen loved watching Sako fight. Even Tomozawa was excited, cheering him on enthusiastically. Sako was one of the top 5 in Shisatuzan. Even against Higashi, one of the 4 heavenly kings of Bofugen, he would not lose. According to Tomozawa, Togame didn't understand what Sako was thinking because when he joined Shisatuzan, he had put in a lot of effort. Normally Sako was quiet, but today, he talked a lot. He faced Higashi directly, very determined and always serious, finding nothing interesting about it. Then he delivered a strong punch towards Higashi, forcing him to step back. Sako noticed that Higashi had not improved. In fact, he seemed weaker than before. Higashi realized that his younger counterpart was more talkative than before. In the past, when he taught him, the boy wouldn't utter a word, as if touched in a sensitive spot. Sako quickly kicked twice at Higashi, then performed a beautiful spinning kick that sent Higashi flying into the wall. Standing over Higashi, Sako claimed that not only had he improved, but Higashi had grown weaker because he was hanging out with the likes of Yumira and Fugen. As he spoke, he glanced at Yumira's group. His word struck a nerve with the likes of Sakura, who angrily yelled at Higashi. As Sakura advanced, he was pulled back by Niji. Suo smiled because Sakura was starting to see them as friends, redirecting his anger toward Suo. Yumira called for Sakura to calm down. Then he spoke with Sako, reminding him that Higashi was one of the 4 heavenly kings of Bofugen, once equal to Tamaten, a team leader. Yumira asked if Sako knew Tamoten's other name, and as Higashi stood up and clutched Sako's shoulder, he admitted it had been a long time since he'd been kicked like that. Then he delivered a powerful punch to the ground, sending Sako flying. Indeed, Sako had grown much stronger. Higashi gently smiled at Sako, revealing that Tamaten's other name was Bithamaten, a war deity. Higashi stood up, took some stomach medicine, and reminisced about the old days, when Sako was bullied at school for being a good student. Back then, Seiko's sunshine was Higashi. It was ironic that they were now fighting each other. A captivating duel with Higashi as the strongest in the town. Sakura pouted, wondering why Higashi hadn't shown his strength from the start. Suo explained it was because of Sakura's encouragement. On stage, Higashi and Sako were evenly matched, but it was clear that Higashi had the upper hand, surprising Sako with his strength. Since leaving Sako for Bofugen, Higashi had enjoyed a happy and relaxed life. Why was that? Higashi had told Sako that he fought off bullies who only picked on the weak. Then he reached out and grabbed Sako's frail hand. Sako begged him to teach him how to fight, and Higashi obliged, always strong, with others following him and Sako too. Under a shower of falling cherry blossoms, Higashi graduated, aiming next for Fusion. Sako believed Higashi would lead at Fusion and would do anything to help him reach the top, planning to join Fusion the following year. Higashi stopped him, advising Sako not to follow him to Fusion as he would be joining Yumira, and thus would not lead. He wanted Sako to find new goals. They parted ways at the bridge, and since then Sako had been fighting to become stronger, meeting Tamazawa and Togen and joining Shishidozen, motivated by the pursuit of absolute strength, fighting strong opponents to become stronger himself, and to defeat Higashi. So now, he couldn't afford to lose. Having bet everything on becoming stronger, Sako launched an attack and jumped behind his opponent, spinning to punch his senior. Higashi caught it, spinning to kick Sako in the face. Sako was in pain but refused to lose, using all his strength to punch, which Higashi caught. Like before, when he taught Sako to fight, Higashi apologized for not living up to his junior's expectations, then punched Sako in the stomach. Sako slid down, clutching Higashi's pants, and Higashi could only apologize. Sako understood that Higashi didn't want him to follow out of concern, but he didn't want to be dismissed like that. His lifelong obsession was to become stronger and stay by the side of the one he loved. Higashi was a name deeply ingrained in Seiko's heart. Then, Sako collapsed unconscious, leaving all members of Shishidozen silent. They were impressed by the performance of Higashi and Sako, despite Seiko's loss. The status of the Heavenly Kings of Bofugen wasn't just a title. As everyone gasped in awe, Niji was stunned, recognizing the greatness of the match and Seiko's strength. Yet he always remained behind Higashi, the man he pursued his whole life. Togen stood up, signaling to everyone that anyone could carry Sako down. The members of Shishidozen remained silent, showing their respect for Sako. Higashi unhesitatingly carried his junior down, while Togen approached to apply Shishidozen's rule for dealing with the loser to Sako. Higashi stopped him, saying whatever you want to do can wait until after the fight is over, because they still didn't know what would happen. Then Higashi stood up and walked towards his teammates. Niji stood up, bowed, and said, "You've had a hard time." Suo nodded in agreement. "You've had a hard time," and next to Yumira, who also said, "You've had a hard time." Yumira praised Higashi's spinning kick. Higashi asked Yumira if he didn't want to ask anything more, to which Yumira responded that if Higashi wanted to share, he would listen. That was the story he wanted to hear. They were friends and teammates who respected each other's stories, understanding each other without needing them to be told. And that's the first 6 episodes of Windbreaker. See you all in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.